Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Bring It Back. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that were canceled or short-lived that I would like to see get brought back in some shape or form. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the HBO series The Time Traveler's Wife. Now, really quickly, if you're unfamiliar with what The Time Traveler's Wife is, it is this interesting science fictional romance series where you have Henry and Claire falling in love, but there's a little bit of a snag. Henry is a time traveler, and not like, oh, I intentionally time travel. It's like more of a disease, a sickness, an illness where he will randomly time travel at different points of his own timeline. So him and Claire kind of meet each other out of sequence, and it's basically this love story of their, well, story being told, because Henry time travels across his, his own past, his own future, and that's a complicated thing of like, oh, you're meeting Claire, which she is your wife in the future. She knows this because when she was a little girl, she met an older version of you who was already married to an older version of her, and now, but you're meeting where she knows everything about you because of all the times you met when she was younger, but this is Henry at 28 meeting her, and you just span this different points in time, and it's just such an interesting take on a romance story. I am someone who's never read the book, nor I was aware of the movie, but I'd never seen it before. I didn't even know what the concept of this story was until I watched the trailer for the show, and I was like, oh, I really like this. Watched the first episode, and I was like, oh no, I don't just like this, I love this. Just such interesting things with time travel. It takes the very concepts you might think about time travel and what movies and other TV shows have told you about time travel and just kind of throw them out. Because if, to my understanding, do correct me, but I was reading in some articles saying that some of the elements of time travel, just when it comes to Henry's circumstances, are a little different. They added certain things in the show that don't exist in the book. But yeah, I think it was such an interesting take on a love story. I even talked about it, I gushed about it in my first, my review of the first episode was, right, if you've ever seen Doctor Who, it's very similar to the whole Doctor and River Song relationship. In fact, the person who brought it to television, this is Stephen Moffat, who was a showrunner at the time that storyline really blossomed in Doctor Who too. So it's just kind of interesting how that works. But the book predates that storyline in Doctor Who, so maybe that, I talked about it, maybe that storyline of Doctor Who was actually kind of inspired by that. Regardless, tangents and all that aside, but because I am doing a Bring It Back, sadly The Time Traveler's Wife was canceled. At first I wasn't sure whether this show was meant to be a one-off or not, but it does, I know like a lot of the cast and crew were also hoping for a season 2, and from my understanding where the show left off, there is still plenty of story to tell, and even storytelling wise, you're like, okay, even with the time travel, you can tell like, yeah, there's still so much more to tell. I don't know whether it's like storytelling wise, whether this be like halfway through the book. This definitely feels like a show. I'm not saying like this show needed to go on like forever and ever, but this is definitely a 2 or 3 season long show. I definitely feel like, just however long it takes to tell the entire story. If we're at the halfway point, I say probably one more season to wrap it up. I'm sure they could always go be very true to the book's ending, or maybe like change things. It just depends. But I am so bummed that the show got canceled, because if you listen to my reviews, I do nothing but gush about the show, because once it's everything I like. It's time travel, because I get really heady about the concept of time travel, especially like I said, the way this show handles it in so many regards, but also the notion of like how that affects this relationships. And because it's like, yeah, like when you know what's coming, there's that conversation of like, right, does choice even matter? Isn't everything predetermined? But it's like, yeah, but your choices still matter because your choices lead us to that moment. But it's like, it's this almost complicated, contradictory element to like the romantic elements, to the time travel. And it's just, how do you come to terms with a lot of that, knowing what your future has for you and stuff like that? And I think that's such a fascinating dichotomy in a romantic, with this being kind of this plot device built around this romantic situation. So like, I get the feeling like this show probably only needed one more season. I mean, the first season's only 6 episodes, probably one more 6-episode season, and you probably get the entire story. Obviously, you just have to read the book. So, I mean, there's at least some form you can, complete the story, because I'm assuming the movie covers the entire thing, but I like being able to spend time, once again, TV shows, the TV show format is my preferred format to experience a story. I like the length and time you get to spend, and I really am bummed that there isn't going to be a second season. Like I said, I get the feeling like you probably only wouldn't need one more season. If not that, only like at the very least a third season. It seems like one of the, I mean, at least from what I've read among some of the articles, is that it seems like the show was not well received, which once again, I get in my own bubble. I'm like, wait, what? People didn't love this show as much as I did? Because if you listen to my reviews, all I do is gush about it, because I think this show was so much fun. And you know, once again, I'm always down for a good love story. I'm crazy about romance and stuff like that. Plus, you add in like a science fictional angle like time travel. I think that's so neat and cool, and I think that it's just a very beautiful and complicated story. But you know, sadly, we aren't getting a second season. This goes on HBO, so I don't see any other network being like, you know what, we're gonna like maybe. You know, in a perfect world, maybe like an Amazon Prime might like grab it up or something like that might fit, you know. But they, you know, maybe it'd probably be difficult to do that even if they wanted to. I don't know if there's ever anything on HBO that got canceled that people are like, oh, let me like snatch that up, and I think the buck kind of pretty much stops there. I don't see anything else picking it up, which I think is such a shame, because I think it's really not everyone felt this way, because once again it was not well received, but I thoroughly loved and enjoyed it, so I'm kind of bummed we're not getting more. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.